First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Hippie for bringing timely subjects up on the forum. It's good to have the forum because many different ideas can be presented, and the best of each idea can be combined, and you wind up with better mousetraps. It's nice people of the forum are of disposition to share so freely. I'm going to do some preliminary stuff not relevant to the subject at hand, but just to show you can think out the box. These are some slit saws that I had made to run in my lathe to cut either gauge nuts or the string fingers for the back of the guitar. That said and done, it goes to show you thinking out of the box, you can accomplish things because those saws are shim for the correct spacing for the string for the different types of guitar. Here we have what they call transfer punches. These are very handy when you need to transfer a hole to a piece of material that's underneath. But what happens if you have a blind hole that you need to perfectly line up? Very simple to do. In those cases, what we do, these holes are already tapped. If you look at this Allen screw, you'll notice that it makes a perfect little center. And what we do, we take these things and we screw those things down into those holes with just a very little top of that little lip or hole is protruding up. Once we get all three of those in there, we'll take our piece, lay it on top, and once everything is lined up, a little soft blow with a rubber mallet will mark the back side of that plate. Now you can turn around and drill those holes and they'll be spot on. This is a leg corner off of a bolting type of end plate that goes on a steel guitar. Now this is a self-aligning dialing jig. It's quite common to use it in woodwork. And everybody knows I'm currently trying to restore this Harlan Brothers guitar, pedal steel guitar. But the dialing jig, although it's fine and dandy, when you have cutaways or scalloped edges, you can't line that thing up perfect. So what you got to do is cut one edge. There's 8 dowels that I put in here because the original body was just horse glued. So what you got to do is you got to make transfer punches. This is the 5/16 bolt. I put in the lathe and I turned it down. And once I get 8 of these made, I slide them into pre-cut holes. Now, once that's done on one side, then I use my fence rail off my table saw and block one end up, and I lay the other end up, and then I slowly clamp it to mark the other edge. That way you got an exact reverse image of that thing in order to put the guitar back together. Now to the subject at hand. I most probably never will make a conversion, but this is the anti-rotation device on my 2001 Sport. And the subject at hand was converting the older styles to this newer style. Now I work with a lot of aluminum, so I have that stuff all over my shop. So this is just a piece of scrap I had laying around. It's 1 inch. Personally, I would make that in steel, even though it's harder to machine. I'd make that in steel at least a 1/2 inch thick. And what you got to do is you got to take a piece of softer material, piece of aluminum is fine, and that's the retainer for that type of anti-rotation device pin to use on the older styles. You take that little plate and you bolt that up to the machine with the pins removed, and you can turn around and use either a homemade, or you can get some center punches of the right depth and you slide them in that hole. And once you snug that plate up there, you take a soft mallet and you tap it, and it'll mark that plate exact dead center. Now you can take that plate and make a template to make a larger plate. Now, being that I'm using aluminum, it's a softer material. So I wanted to be able to design this thing where I could change out pieces as they wear out. So therefore, I used some 1/2-inch bolts. Now this is just junk as far as I'm concerned, because when you buy cheap bolts, they're really not manufactured that well, because when they forge the heads on, they're not really dead center, but that's immaterial. Because when you do lathe these up, it will, and drill them, they will be dead center. But if you use a higher grade bolt, like a grade 8, those things are going to be pretty much spot on, because they meet a higher standard. Now, on this, what I would need 2 of these. Now, these things are drilled for the 412 for the tap drill, in order to drill those holes out on that engine case where the pins go. And you would need one, at least one. You would use 2 of these and at least 1 of these that's just plain old drill for the 5/16 pin. That you would, this 5/16 hole would be the one that you would use to use the long reach 4-fluke mill to drill the backside of that hole. Now on here, this is what I had done. You would most probably need 2 of these. The end of it is turned for the 3/16, and the other one is turned for the 412. It'll fit in this bolt real snug. And these things screw down into this block. And you would have 2 of those. And what that does, when you screw this 3/16 pin into the 3/16 hole is there, it will line that block up perfectly. And then you would snug this down. Once you snug that down, you can remove one of these, leave the other one in, and you could put this in. This is drilled for the 3/16 mill that'll go through there. Now this thing's going to give you some extra depth to help support that mill, and when you run that mill through here to the backside, it's going to be pretty doggone stable, because when you get to the backside of that hole, since it's at an angle, that mill will want to walk. But if you take your time, that mill will cut the shoulder down into there. Now, once that is cut, you can turn around while it's still there and put your other block back in, and then drill that hole out with your tap drill. So now you got the hole 3/16 as you want it. Now you drill for your tap hole. Then when you get through with that, you see, you just turn around and you put that back in to hold it. Then you do the same thing for the other side. Now, as a little tip, if you don't want to do any turning down, they make drill rod in every size that there is a drill bit made. This is a drill that I use to rifle drill the bodies of my guitars to run the control wires for the volume and tones. You can even buy the sizes that you need and cut this and not have to buy the drill rod. But like I say, they come in every size that a drill is made in. And you can use this material to make the 3/16 pin alignment pins that go here. And all you would do there would be just to drill this slightly undersized to 3/16 and then push the drill rod in there. And that would give you the same thing as this would, except that you don't have to drill the bolt. Just a little short piece to put your lining pins in there. No turning in the lathe, and easier to do.